was found. It's been sort of lightly preserved, but needs more preservation. Indefinitely wet, saturated ground. It's rusting away. This one would have been found where, it was drier. Obviously, the preservation is amazing. It still has, moving parts. Both sides of what is now the reservoir, the north side, Confederate front line, south side, Union front line, the golf course. The amount of stuff that is definitely still in the ground, but the amount of stuff that has been excavated, both legally and illegally, over the years. But this thing, there were a bunch of these found, and this was another thing that Michael Moore, he's like, oh, now what do you think this could be used for? And yeah, I had no idea, but when he described it, it was like, okay, that makes sense. I think, I'm 90% sure this is called a frog. And for whatever reason, I don't know, that could be totally wrong if I'm remembering, but it was at the bottom of a scabbard to protect the pointy end of the little short sword or saber or whatever from jamming you in the leg.
Okay.
So, but there were a whole bunch of these found. But just the fact that just this little sampling was there in the park, that was history. That was, and I've just learned this, and there's so much more to learn since I've been working there, but April 16th, 1862, the only real battle that happened during that particular face-off across the front lines at that point. Troops from Vermont were sent over to attack a Confederate position, basically right across where the bridge is now that goes across the reservoir, just to the left. And they held it for a short time. They were driven back, heavy casualties on both sides. And then, nothing. Well, like 3 weeks later, on May 5th, I think, the night of May 5th, in one night, the Confederates just disappeared off that line and fell back to the Williamsburg defense line. And the next morning, the Union troops got up and they're like, "Where's everybody?" Yeah.
They brought their cannons from Fort Monroe. The Unions did.
Yep, they were, for the weeks leading up to that, what McClellan had decided to do was wait and bring up all of that heavy artillery to Yorktown to blast the Confederate defenses at Yorktown into the Stone Age. And then they'd be able to use the York River to go up the river to get ready to attack Richmond. But they ultimately did, they pulled out of Yorktown and went up to Williamsburg, but then they fought them in Williamsburg. They never did get, the whole Peninsula campaign went nowhere. But it's so amazing to me when I'm at the park, which is the park that we know today with the hiking trails and the reservoir. That was ground zero for the war in this part of the country at that time. That's the two sides were facing each other, from like here to those trees. Unbelievable. It really.
Fascinating, all of this.
Oh, look.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, your samples, yeah.
Red oak or white oak?
Red.
There it is. See how
That was a test.
We paid attention.
That was the test.